Right now, I am in the richest country in the Arab world or the Middle East, Qatar. 30 years ago, it would have been unthinkable to think that this tiny peninsular nation would go on to become the richest country in this region. In today's video, I'm going to show you my experiences from my first day of arriving to Qatar and tell you the fascinating story of how this little country became so rich. This video is brought to you by our sponsor TapTapSend. More on them later on the video. So I just arrived in Doha, which is the capital city of Qatar, a few hours ago, and I had a bit of a mic malfunction and I lost some of the scenes. So let me fill you in on what happened. So I got to Qatar using a flight from Dubai, which only took like 45 minutes because it's only less than a 7-hour drive, even if you're driving here from Dubai. Qatar at one point was supposed to be one of the Emirates of the UAE, but decided to be its own country, but more on that later. So after like 20 layovers in this airport, I finally went through immigration, and the immigration line was long. It took like an hour, and then I picked up my bag, my luggage, and ran into a bunch of Bangladeshi viewers who work at the airport. There were like 4 people, 3 of them with the same name. Then I was basically trying to get to the metro. To get to this metro, to get to my hotel, I basically had to walk for a kilometer through like a bridge and like a couple of buildings. We see a map of the metro line here. Starts from the airport, goes all the way to Lusail. Then I was about to buy a metro card, and the person next to me just handed me a metro card for free. I think he accidentally bought 2 cards. Then he just gave me one, and you can see that guy walking in front of me. Then basically I got inside the metro. So there's like a 2-tier system here on the metro. Basically, apparently it's like 10 reals for like first class with like nicer seats, and it's like 2 reals with like still pretty nice seats, from what I'd say. So I don't know what else you're gonna get by paying 5 times more. Maybe like better space and stuff like that. I don't know if you can tell, but this metro is moving incredibly fast underground. I'm in Musharraf, which I think is the main metro station of Doha. And now I'm going outside to find a bus. Then as I was exiting this bus station, I ran into even more Bangladeshi viewers. There were so many Bangladeshis that I was meeting. I think I'm in front of the bus I'm supposed to get on, but it's not at the place where Google Maps said it was gonna be. As I was vlogging in front of this bus, the bus just left without me getting on it. I met this Sri Lankan security guard who told me I had to go upstairs and get like a different pass, not the metro pass, to basically ride this bus. I went upstairs and got the new card, and this time managed to get on the bus. Actually made it to the bus this time. Whew, finally almost at the hotel. Looks like I'm in the middle of this place with a lot of delivery bikes. This hotel definitely looks fancier than I thought it would be, at least from the outside. Then I checked into this hotel that looked pretty fancy, got all my stuff in, and here we are. This is becoming a pattern. Everything is golden and leopard print, and this lamp is like the fanciest thing I've ever seen. But I think the fanciest thing about this room is the bathroom. Okay, let me show you. First of all, there's like 2 different sinks here. I did not know I was signing up for a bathroom with 2 different sinks. And then there's like a bathtub, and then there's like a shower area, a separate one, which I really dig. After Thailand, you know, I was just used to like having the water everywhere. There's a toilet, you know, the bomb gun, and a bidet on top of that. I don't even know what this is. Yeah, this is only $40 a night, so not bad for that. And I think it's because I booked a few weeks ago when this was like on some discount. I tried to make a cinematic sequence of making instant coffee, and then I spilled coffee all over this table. But the point I'm trying to make is, I had some cash left over in Dubai before I came here in dirhams, and the way I spend that is by buying like 25 packs of instant coffee. So I have a lot of Nescafe instant coffee that I need to drink in the next 4 or 5 days. I'm in Qatar. It's 9:45 p.m. and it took like 3.5 hours somehow to get from landing at the airport to coming to this hotel, even though Doha's not supposed to be a big city. So I'm just exhausted. I'm gonna go to bed. Tomorrow we're gonna explore Doha in Qatar. It's 1 p.m. and I'm finally outside. Spent the whole morning scripting this video, and I'm really excited to tell you the story of this country or city. But first I gotta go get some cash. First thing I notice as I get out in the city is a lot of white and beige buildings, just like the UAE and probably most other Gulf, Middle Eastern countries. It's 33 degrees today, so it's like super hot and really sunny, as you can tell. Thank God it doesn't feel too humid though. But this is nothing compared to like 50 degrees Celsius or like 125 degrees Fahrenheit that it gets in the peak summer. So I'm seeing some people around, and like 95% of the people I've seen so far in Qatar have been South Asians like me. And maybe the 5% has been from Africa. This country actually has a population of close to 3 million, and only I think 12% of the entire population are actually citizens of Qatar, which is very similar to the UAE. Most people here are expats or people working from other countries, mostly male, which makes the male to female ratio around 3 to 1, which is just crazy. And that's for the whole country. Okay, so I got my money from this exchange right behind me called Al Jazeera Exchange, which, by the way, those of you who've heard about Al Jazeera news conglomerate, Al Jazeera literally means the peninsula, because Qatar is this tiny peninsula that's like less than 200 kilometers long or less than 120 miles long. So I just exchanged $100 for 360 Qatari riyals, which is like 1% less than the exchange rate that Google told me, but with fees, I think that's fine. You don't really need a lot of cash in Qatar, but I just wanted to see the money and use some cash, so I got it. First of all, that's the 10 riyal, the 100 riyal off to the sides, and then there's the 50 riyal with the Arabic number written over here. I know this now because I've been in the UAE for more than 3 weeks and I'm a bit more used to this. Speaking of money, if you're a Bangladeshi living outside Bangladesh and are having trouble sending money back home, I would tell you to check out this app called Tap2Send. Tap2Send is a really simple app using which you can send money from the UK, Europe, the US, Canada, and the UAE to Bangladesh. There are lots of reasons for using Tap2Send. First of all, there's no transaction fee, no matter how big of an amount you send. Number two, the exchange rates are really great compared to competitors, which is what a lot of people tell me. Number three, the transaction times are really fast. Number four is that you can send your money directly to a bank account in Bangladesh or to a bKash account or a Nagad account, or you can even send money to a bank account using a PIN code if you're using banks like Brak Bank. And number five, Tap2Send has offered a special promo code for my viewers, which is OTG, based on my name Nadir on the go. And if you use that promo code on your first transaction, you get a big bonus on your first transaction. So that's 25 dirhams if you're sending money from the UAE, $10 if you're sending money from the US, 10 Canadian dollars if you're sending money from Canada, 10 pounds if you're sending money from the UK, and 10 euros if you're sending money from Europe. So make sure you check out Tap2Send, use my promo code on your first transaction if you need to send money back to Bangladesh. So Qatar is actually right next to Saudi Arabia and the UAE, and what a lot of people don't know is that Qatar was originally supposed to be one of the Emirates of the UAE, and so was the country of Bahrain, but there were some like last minute negotiations that didn't quite work out. There were some disputes about these islands between Bahrain and Qatar, and they ended up being their own countries and not joining the UAE basically. I think it's best to go to the next destination and talk more about the interesting history of Qatar. Behind me you see Qatar's famous air-conditioned bus stops because it gets so hot and unbearable waiting for the bus in the summers here. It looks like it's not running right now because I tried to open it using the hand thing and it wouldn't open. Okay, so the last bus just decided not to show up, so waiting for the next one. Thankfully there's shade. Found one of my viewers from Bangladesh. নাম কি আপনার?
হাই, আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
নাম কি?
আমার নাম জুয়েল।
জুয়েল ভাই, আচ্ছা। এখন এই ভিডিও করব, বাসের জন্য ওয়েট করতেছি।
আমার গাড়িতে ভিডিও করেন, আসেন না।
Okay, so I was just waiting for the bus, which was not showing up basically. Ran into a viewer who like drove past me and he like backed up and then he was like, "Oh, watch your videos, where are you going?" And I was like, "I'm going to the Pro Monument." He's like, "Okay, I'll just drop you off." So he's just dropping me off. Balasan. Just got off the taxi, another Bangladeshi gentleman like just stopped me on the streets. He recognized me too from my videos. Lots of Bangladeshis here. I think we're the second biggest group of people in the entire country. So he dropped me off at this place which seems to be called the Dhow Harbor, because you see a lot of Dhow boats, like the traditional Qatari boats, parked in this harbor. Right behind me is also the really famous Museum of Islamic Art, but we don't have time to go there right now today. So behind me is the very famous Pearl Monument, which is very closely connected to the history of Qatar. Up until less than 100 years ago, people of Qatar survived basically or maintained their economy by fishing or by going pearling, which is like obtaining these like oysters with pearls and obtaining the pearls and selling them. And it was a very poor place till like less than 100 years ago. But then in 1939 something happened that changed the course of not just this country but the subcontinent's history. But to talk about that, I'm gonna go into the shade so I can actually like keep my eyes open. More Bangladeshi viewers. Like I really appreciate it, but it's like literally hard to film in the Gulf countries where there's so many Bangladeshis. Because, you know, I have a plan of, let's say, filming for 6 hours a day, and then I end up meeting people who love my work, which I really appreciate. But just talking to them takes up like an extra hour, so I end up filming less or like staying longer in places than I initially plan on. So I have to like, I guess, make my plans accordingly. I'll probably have to stay in Qatar a day extra because everything takes so long. Found a little bit of shade behind these palm trees, so I'm gonna make the most of it. Unfortunately, this setup, sitting behind a tree, is the best way I can film right now because it's so bright here. But let's talk about the history of Qatar. So they found oil here in 1939, right before World War II started. But because of that timing and World War II starting, the industry wasn't developed by any means until like about 1949 or late 1940s when all that started. But even when they found oil, they had 1/4 of the oil that UAE had, 1/4 of the oil that Kuwait had, and 1/10 of the oil that Saudi Arabia had. But it's interesting how, despite all of that, it became the richest country in the region with the highest GDP per capita. So in the 70s, there was this massive discovery of the world's largest natural gas field right off the coast. So around half of that belonged to the Qatari, the other half fell to the Iranians on the other side. Back then, honestly, gas wasn't even that valuable of a product because back then the demand for oil was very much higher than gas because, you know, transporting gas is a very complicated process. You have to like liquefy it, which is very hard and expensive to do in the desert where it's 50 degrees. You have to freeze it at like sub-zero temperatures and then transport it. And the place you're transporting to also has to have the technology to turn this liquefied natural gas, or LNG, into usable gas. Another way of transporting the gas is through a pipeline, but the thing was, you usually use pipelines to transport gases to like your neighbors, and all of Qatar's neighbors were already energy sufficient themselves, so it didn't make sense to make pipelines all the way to countries that needed it, like Korea or Japan or to Europe. On the other hand, oil you could just literally throw in barrels and transport them across a ship. So gas wasn't too valuable back in the days. With time, as technological advancements grew, the cost of transporting this gas and the ways of transporting this gas became a lot easier. And as countries started to get more and more aware of global warming and its effects, people started being more interested in using a product like gas, which produced less carbon emissions than oil. So the demand for gas started growing, and it was only in the 90s Qatar really started investing more into exporting their gas reserves. And it essentially had the third largest gas reserves in the world already, behind Russia and Iran only. And with its investments, it became the second highest exporter in the world, with a country where the citizens amount like something like 300,000. That is essentially how it became so rich so fast, having the highest GDP per capita in the world for many years in a row. It doesn't have the highest GDP per capita in the world anymore. I think it's overtaken by a few. All these other countries that are ahead of Qatar are dependent on like investments or transactions with other countries. On the other hand, Qatar has all of its wealth inside its territories, and it's basically just exporting it. So not only is it the richest country in the region, it's also growing at a faster rate than all other countries.
Another important detail is that before the Ukraine-Russia war, Europe, or the EU in particular, was importing around 40% of its natural gas from Russia. But after the war, that cut down to a very small percentage.
So now they started importing more and more Qatari gas, so it became a very important strategic partner of the West. To come into these tunnels in the basement to find a bathroom. Now I'm going to try to make my way out and go to the next spot to talk more about Qatar's economy and, interestingly, other things it's done besides oil and gas. So found an AC bus stop that works, and there's a place to like charge my phone here too if you have your cable. So basically Uber wasn't working for me, so I just was looking for a taxi, then I found, oh my god, there's like camels.
In 100 meters.
So I was just filming and there's like a bunch of camels being walked around the parliament, I guess. Uber wasn't working for me, so I was trying to get a taxi, and then like I found this car. It's being driven by a Bangladeshi person who's giving me a ride, and I'll just pay him in cash.
In 200 meters.
So Mr. Alamgir here is telling me that this road that I'm on is a very important ceremonial road. The street is like colored maroon, which is the color of the flag of Qatar, maroon and white. And this basically is going towards, or at least going by, the city center downtown West Bay that we'll see later today. So I took down my driver's contact information so I can at least reach out to him and get a ride from him, paid ride of course, if Uber continues to not keep working for me. Because that looks like that might be a problem, because the metro while convenient to go to certain places, is not good for going to a lot of other places. So right now I was going to the Al Jazeera media conglomerate company's headquarters, and I was hoping I'd be able to like stop in front of it, you know, get some shots, talk about it, but it was like on the highway and there was like literally no place to stop unless you're actually going inside the compound. So we just drove past it and came here to downtown West Bay, the city center of Qatar, which is very small compared to Dubai, which seemed like a much bigger city center. You can like see all of it from a distance, and I'm in the middle of it right now basically. So I was going to talk about Al Jazeera because the media conglomerate, which is the second largest media conglomerate in terms of like number of outlets it has across the world after the BBC, is one of the many ways Qatar decided to invest all the money that it got from its like natural gas and oil exports. 1996 is when Al Jazeera was created, and it has already become such an influential source of like news across the whole world basically. Now, along with investing the profits of the oil and gas into just media, Qatar also invested into real estate across the whole planet, buying very valuable real estate in mega cities around the world, in western cities like London. The state of Qatar owns PSG, or Paris's football club. It also owns Qatar Airways, which is one of the biggest airlines in the world. So even very recently, 70% of Qatar's government revenue and 60% of the GDP is very dependent on its like fossil fuel exports. And that's a problematic place to be in because the prices of natural gas and oil and like these things fluctuate over the years, and if you're completely dependent on something like that, if the prices go down, then your economy is in big trouble, which is what happened to a lot of big countries that are over dependent on like fossil fuels over the years. So in order to save themselves from that, Qatar has been investing heavily in all these other avenues. So I just went into like a supermarket over here to get some stuff and walked out and realized I'm right in front of Doha Tower and in the middle of all the famous skyscrapers of Doha that give the city center skyline its unique look. Okay, to get to the next spot, I'm gonna have to get the metro. Okay, so it's almost sunset time. I'm in this area called Qatar Cultural Village, and there's one spot here that I really wanted to see around sunset time. I seem to have entered this beautiful complex with these like beautiful tan-colored buildings. There's the amphitheater right in front of me. So I'm at this really pretty amphitheater. It's the Katana Amphitheater that is free to enter seemingly, and where people are doing a lot of photo shoots. People are modeling and photographers are giving instructions on what to do. Okay, right next to the amphitheater is this famous mosque, the Katana Mosque, often called the Golden Masjid or Golden Mosque, because the whole exterior is decorated with golden chips all across it. And it's famous for this minar behind me. It's also a lot of golden chips. You can't really go inside unless you're a Muslim and you're there to pray, of course. Man, I didn't realize I was this close to the beach or the Gulf. And I see a lot of beautiful dhow boats parked there in front of me. I was going to the next stop, and on the metro I ran into another viewer from Bangladesh. I took a metro all the way to Lusail Stadium, which is the biggest football stadium in the Middle East. And this stadium can fit up to like, I think, more than 80,000 people, which is ridiculous. And it's like air conditioned so people can watch it even when it's hot. This is where the World Cup final for the 2022 FIFA World Cup was hosted. I think that was the best final I've ever seen in my life. A lot of people say that's the best final ever. Something to think about is what happened to the people that built these stadiums.
So I'm not really qualified to talk in details about this, but from major news outlets like the BBC to late night TV show hosts like John Oliver to journalists like Johnny Harris, a lot of people have discussed the widespread allegations about workers' rights violations of the migrants from countries like my country, Bangladesh, who came to build these stadiums for the Qatar World Cup.
I'm going to attach links to these videos so you can go see for yourself what these journalists found from their investigations, so you don't have to take my word for it. This is something that Qatar apparently has tried to address and has tried to change the laws, and we have to be careful to not let things like these repeat itself. Something we need to be mindful of, something that the government of this country or any other country that brings in migrant workers needs to be mindful of. Okay, so I'm at the center of the old town of Doha in what seems like a very, very touristy place on a Friday night. So I'm gonna end the video from here because my phone is dying and I need to get back home. before my phone's dead, because that would make things very complicated since I can't even call an Uber. I need Google Maps to get back home since this is literally my first day here. If you like this video, feel free to like it, and feel free to subscribe to my channel to watch more videos like this. If you want real-time travel updates, feel free to follow me on Instagram at Nadir on the go. I'll catch you guys in the next video from somewhere else in Qatar.